Trooper A1, The Purple Blitzkrieg by Gabrielle Marie Kozak. Book 1 of the Trooper series. Narrated by the author. Chapter 6. Connor's spine tingled as he tiptoed around the gun shop, searching for potential hiding places. Making no sound was an easy task for one as light as him. The failing sunlight outside cast eerie shadows in the shop, doubling Connor's sixth sense that something was very off. There was nowhere the man could have disappeared to, and yet... Walking behind the cashier's desk, Connor saw that the cash register drawer was open. How odd. No shopkeeper with the slightest bit of common sense would leave a cash register drawer open. But now Connor was paying no attention to the money in the drawer. A softly glowing purple button at the back of the drawer had attracted the 16-year-old's notice. With the recklessness of youth, he reached out and pressed the button with one finger, pulling his hand away quickly in case the drawer might explode or something equally drastic. But there was only a slight inrush of air from behind him. He spun around. A door had slid open in the allegedly seamless wall to reveal steep stairs going down. The walls of the area were painted a blinding white, and the stairs were made of a shiny, unrusted metal and a practical design. Connor hesitated only a moment before stepping carefully down the first few steps. He jumped, startled, as the door shut automatically behind him. Frantically, he examined it. There was no way out, as far as he could tell. Connor felt panic welling up inside him as he ran his bony hands all over the door, as high as he could reach, in hope of finding a sensor that would open the door for him. He found none. The door and the walls were as smooth as paper. The boy pulled his phone out of his pocket to call for help. He dialed Mara, but the call didn't go through. Then his mother and the police, with the same result. He tried texting, but his phone was completely offline. Connor felt a sob coming into his throat. He should never have gone in here. What was he going to do? Briefly, he considered pounding on the door and screaming for help, but he changed his mind upon looking down the rest of the stairs. It clearly led to a hallway, and if he'd been led here by that man, obviously someone was at home. Someone who would hear him yelling long before the police did, and someone who could probably very easily dispose of him. Even if Connor hadn't been the weakest teenager in Annapolis, whoever had the money to design or use a place like this would definitely be ready for uninvited visitors. That duly considered, he made up his mind to make the best he could of the situation. Clutching the railing with sweaty hands, he slipped down the stairs as quietly as he was able, afraid that if they creaked, someone might come to check. His sneakers made little sound even on the metal of the steps, except once when his shoelaces became so loose that one of them slapped the step with a snap. Connor was horrified. He bent down to remedy the situation. The silence became overwhelmingly oppressive as he sat down to tie his shoes more securely, and sweat broke out on his forehead. His face was already white and pale, and he could feel his heart pounding so loudly that he felt it must be heard for a mile around. As he neared the bottom of the steps, he began to hear voices, faint yet distinct. All his caution, some of which had been dropped along the way, came back to him. He stopped. He had been counting the steps unconsciously. It struck him that there were at least 50, perhaps 100. Wondering dimly why he felt so fatigued, he gripped the railing as hard as his clammy hands would let him. It seemed that he waited an eternity before the sound of footsteps in the hall died away, and the only sound from below was muffled talking. Counting to 10 under his breath beforehand, Connor descended the last steps and found himself in a hall, as he'd figured he would. Luckily, it was empty. There was an elevator at the far end, and in between, about 5 doors on each side. The doors were unlabeled. Struck by a sudden idea, Connor took a picture of the hallway, first checking that his phone was completely muted. He put his phone back in his pocket and tiptoed over to the first door on his right. Softly, he put his ear to the door. There were voices within, so he crossed the hall to the door on the left, exactly parallel to the one on the right. All was quiet within but the clicking of a mouse and the quiet clicking of a keyboard. So someone was in there, too. Connor knew he couldn't stay in the hall, so he quickly checked the rest of the rooms. Finally, he found one that he felt sure was empty. He tried the door handle, and it was locked. Panic again. He started to head for the elevator, then stopped and pulled out his phone. Somehow there was signal here. He couldn't call anyone. He decided to text Maura first. She could get the cops. His fingers flew across his phone screen as he typed. He stood there in a corner near the elevator, hoping no one would come into the hall until he got this message across. Even as he started typing, he heard the elevator go into motion. Maura, I'm stuck in a weird place underground and there's no way out that I can find. Please get the cops. I'm in the gun shop by... The elevator doors were sliding open. He had no time left. He had to give the message time to send before he was caught. Connor hit send, despite the fact that he wasn't finished, and swiftly leaned the phone on the floor against the floorboard. He whipped off his hoodie. He could use that. Someone was coming out of the elevator now. It was the man Connor had followed into the shop, but now carrying a small box. Connor stuck out his foot and tripped him. The box went flying. Connor immediately leapt on the man, desperate to keep him down on the ground. The man shouted loudly before Connor had a chance to gag him with his hoodie, and he rolled over. Connor hung on desperately and somehow managed to continue the roll until he was on top again. He kicked and punched with all his strength, but then someone else ran out of the elevator and grabbed Connor's shirt collar, jerking him off the first man's back, even off Connor's feet. Connor wasn't surprised. He weighed less than 100 pounds, and even Maura could lift him. Hanging by his shirt collar did not agree with respiration, however. Connor kicked violently and grabbed at the hands that were holding him. He could see his phone and the message that appeared underneath his text. Message could not be sent. Trying again. Connor abandoned all caution and began yelling at the top of his lungs, yells that got shorter, fainter, and more desperate as time elapsed. All of a sudden it seemed he was flying, straight out the wall. The next second he blacked out.